Welcome to the real world. My name is Cameron, joined by Carson.
Hey.
Today we just wanted to talk about superhero movies. We're big fans of this genre, the comic book genre. Grew up reading comic books, watching the animated series, all that kind of stuff. And so we did it for a couple reasons. Mainly because Superman the movie, the original comic book film from 1978, is celebrating its 45th anniversary this week.
Totally.
So we were really excited about that, and it got me thinking about...
Yeah, I mean, Superman, this is the beginning of the superhero genre,
Yeah,
really.
this is the first one.
Which is very fitting for his character, as he kind of started the superhero comics,
right.
so that his movie was kind of one of the first superhero movies.
Right.
I'm curious to see what you think of how superhero cinema has evolved since 1978.
Right. So it's gone through a lot of changes. I mean, first of all, this movie broke new ground with
special effects,
bringing superheroes in, bringing special effects to the forefront. All of it, taking it more seriously.
Sure.
Comic book stuff was really just for kids.
Cartoons.
And there were cartoons.
Yeah.
There was the George Reeves black and white show.
The Max Fleischer cartoon.
There was the Adam West Batman series.
Right, yep.
But it was all very light and silly, right?
Sure.
And fun and colorful. And this took it a lot more seriously. It was a lot more dramatic. They were playing these characters as if they were real people.
Sure.
There were a lot more realism to it.
It's kind of funny that Superman kind of went more grounded and realistic than Batman did initially.
Right.
Whereas kind of we think
coming out of the 60s,
zeitgeist,
coming out of the 60s,
now.
It was the different take. So, but this of course begat Tim Burton's Batman, and then that became a huge thing, which took it a lot darker.
Which again, Superman, it's not like a dark, gritty, serious movie.
No.
It's still light and fun and colorful.
Yep.
But it takes itself more seriously.
Yes, it has what Richard Donner, the director, called verisimilitude.
Okay.
In other words, doing things as if you're believing it's real.
Right.
Not doing it with kind of a wink and a nod as much as they had used to do it. There's real dramatic moments here. There's real character depth, and there's kind of some intense moments. So,
yeah, definitely.
But it definitely, like you're saying, has a lot of comedy and a lot of kind of silliness to it as well. So to me, it's a great balance of those things. Whereas with superhero movies, I feel like they became darker and darker, especially once we got to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, which was inspired by Superman. He's a huge Richard Donner fan.
Yeah.
There's actually on the Blu-ray package I have of the Dark Knight trilogy a conversation between him and Richard Donner, him talking about the way he cast the movie with big actors in these small roles, and took it more seriously and on all that stuff. So the Dark Knight trilogy, I think, especially with Batman Begins, really does that. And then, with Batman, you can get extremely realistic because the character has no superpowers.
Right. He has no powers. He's very technological based.
Yeah. There's no fantasy elements. There's no sci-fi elements.
He's just in a regular city, Gotham City.
Right.
Even though I think Gotham City is supposed to be this epic gothic, romanticized version of the city. And a lot of interpretations, it is just like Chicago.
Right, exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
it's an easy character to bring into the real world.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But this one with Superman, he's inherently sci-fi. Like, that's just kind of his nature. He's from another planet.
He's an alien.
Comes to this planet, and he has all these crazy, incredible superpowers.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think Richard Donner just did a great job bringing it all to life. The cast is fantastic.
For sure.
Christopher Reeve is wonderful. Margot Kidder is Lois.
Margot Kidder, I still think she's the best Lois we've ever had. I mean, she's full of charisma, and she's got that kind of snappy, witty attitude.
Yep.
And she doesn't really pay much mind to Clark.
No.
She hardly ever really looks at him.
Right.
She's always kind of ignoring him and passing him off, which is kind of the whole point of that mystique of Clark Kent as Superman and his disguise. People oftentimes make fun of his disguise. That it's just, glasses, but
exactly.
It was kind of popularized more later in comic books like Superman for All Seasons and a couple other All-Star Superman, that it's not just glasses that he's wearing, it's his whole demeanor, his whole attitude.
And Christopher Reeve's performance totally captures that perfectly. It's such a good performance. We've got Mark McClure as Jimmy, who's great.
Yeah.
Jackie Cooper as Perry White. All these are kind of the prototypes of these characters on screen.
Yeah.
Even though, again, we had some serials and some TV show, I feel like everyone looks back to this film as being the Superman movie.
Right.
It's really held up over time. I think it really just does a great job with every aspect of the character and his mythology. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about, though, is, talking about newer comic book films. And, we're in this state right now where comic book films took over. Right after the Dark Knight trilogy, we got the MCU.
Yeah.
And it's just blown up. So for the past 15 years, we've had basically every year a big superhero movie.
Non-stop.
Or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 big superhero movies.
Totally.
So it's become...
Yeah, it kind of fizzled out for a while there.
A little bit. There was a little dip.
In the 80s. Because we tried a lot of different stuff in the 80s. I mean, we got Darkman. We got, The Spirit.
90s,
we got, yeah, 80s and 90s.
90s,
kind of a lot of experimentation in superhero movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Leading into the 2000s, where we got the X-Men franchise,
Spider-Man,
changed everything.
That really started the trend.
Right.
Those films. The original Blade, kind of like in a small way, started it. Then really in early 2000 with X-Men. Then 2002 with Spider-Man. Sam Raimi bringing that character to life.
Totally.
Did a lot. And again, Sam Raimi also harkens back to the Superman movie as
which
one of the best.
Which leads us, of course, to Iron Man 1.
Yeah, Iron Man.
Start of the MCU, the first Marvel Cinematic Superhero Universe.
That's right.
Which is still going today.
It is.
I mean, it's pretty amazing how it's been going for over a decade now.
I know.
I'm amazed.
Yeah. So a lot of people talking now about how superhero movies have kind of fallen off. Marvel's not what it once was.
Fatigue is setting in.
Fatigue setting in. The audience isn't as excited about it as they once were.
Right.
That interconnectivity isn't quite there. There's no clear goal moving forward.
Sure.
There's all kinds of problems that they've run into with these superhero movies. They kind of are trying the same formula over and over, and it's not.
Right.
It's getting stale at this point. People are kind of knowing what to expect, and I really think Superman the movie is a great example of what we should do moving forward.
The key to the future lies in the past.
I agree.
Always.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, Superman the movie, it embodies the hopeful optimism that people are looking for in superhero movies. It has those amazing special effects that we always look for.
Yep.
But it also has really quiet, intimate character moments.
That's what it all comes back to. It
Yeah.
all comes back to story and character.
Yep.
Those are the two key ingredients that I think Marvel movies, DC movies, all superhero movies are missing now, is that they've lost sight of what made the original movies so great. Think about that original Iron Man.
Yeah.
It's all about a character going through an arc and the characters surrounding him. It's got a lot of humor. It's got a lot of heart to it.
Totally.
So that's what I wanted to highlight here with Superman the movie, is that it really is just telling a great story, a classic story, a simple story, very well, doing it with some incredible visuals. A lot of it shot on location.
Yeah. A lot of practical effects.
Blending that in with the special effects.
Right, and the compositing.
And all that stuff is so well done. So giving us spectacle is certainly important.
Right.
But I think there's become such an over-reliance on CGI. I feel like it's really taken over to where the point... It's like the new Ant-Man movie, there was really nothing real in the whole film. It was basically entirely CGI backgrounds, people interacting with CGI characters, and there's just no connection between the actor and what they're trying to convey.
There's no tangibility.
Yeah. So to me, that's what we need to get away from. We need to get back to practical effects, real sets, building stuff out, and making it just easier for the actors. I mean, really. I mean, it's just, that's a huge part of performances. Of course, you have to use your imagination, but the less you have to do that, the better. So,
I always think of that behind the scenes clip of Gandalf in the Hobbit movies, where he is having to imagine all of the CGI stuff going on around him, and he just gets a headache.
Yeah, Ian McKellen. He just puts his head down.
He's just like, give me a minute. Give me a second. I don't know what's going on.
He's literally surrounded by green.
There's
nothing real in the environment.
Exactly.
And so, that's what we need to abandon, I feel like, in Hollywood. They really need to get back to the practicality.
And not to mention, I mean, the small companies that they hire to take on these massive projects are just massively overworked. There's no way to keep track of all of the stuff going on. You watch a superhero movie today, there's armies and armies of visual effects artists who are all working on the same project. So
it's too much.
It makes the movie feel disconjointed.
Yes.
That was really a big problem.
The inconsistency with the CGI.
That was a big problem with Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Was some of those effects look amazing. Sure. Some of them are just fantastic.
Right.
And other ones look really, really
terrible.
Weird.
Yeah.
Because it's totally different studios and you don't have full communication under the same vision.
Yep.
I mean, even Taika Waititi has mentioned that he doesn't oversee all of the visual effects and everything.
That's right. Yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah. And not to mention also, this is kind of going back to the MCU and the movie Black Widow. Has whole sequences that are shot completely in CGI that aren't directed by the director.
No.
So it's a big problem.
So it is a big problem. Richard Donner was obviously overseeing all of Superman. Every shot in the film was his. It was his vision on screen. Guys like Zack Snyder do this.
Sure.
He oversees every shot in the movie. He's got it all planned out in his head. He's all storyboarded.
Right.
You know, I mean, these kind of visionary directors are the guys that we need behind the camera. Who have a real understanding of the visual effects, of the story he's telling visually.
Yeah. And it's not all of them, it's their team, and it's their team working together, and it's just a great synergy and a great cooperative movement that makes a film what it is.
It is, but there's a vision at the top that trickles down.
Totally.
That everyone's aiming for this goal.
Yeah.
And it's very clear what they're aiming for. So, yeah, I think that's what we need to get back to. And again, story and character, going back to that for a second, it's so important that we care about the characters on screen, right? I mean, that's why people come back to these movies. If studios want sequels, they want to build out a franchise, you have to give us characters we want to come back and watch again. What's going to happen next with this character?
Right.
What are they going to do? How are they going to interact with that other character?
I think that rings true not only for your protagonists and your heroes, but also for your villains.
Yes.
This is another major critique I have of the MCU, is every good villain that they have, they immediately get rid of.
Get rid of them quick.
Killmonger has endless potential for story and for growth and development.
Right.
And I the same's true for many of the villains that they've just kind of discarded in one movie. So it's like, when you look at DC, in my opinion, has the greatest rogues gallery ever created.
100%.
I mean, they have the best villains.
Yeah.
That's part of what makes DC so great.
Right.
And those villains always stick around. It's always they break out of jail and we have to fight them again.
Yes.
And it's kind of this cycle that we kind of are caught in.
Definitely.
And that's what makes it interesting and intriguing and exciting to go back to.
For sure. So yeah, they need to up it on the character front, like you're saying, heroes and villains, as well as supporting characters. Think about this Superman movie. I mean, the supporting characters are almost as interesting as the main characters.
Can't get enough Otis.
Ned Beatty as Otis is one of the best
hilarious
side characters, supporting characters ever.
He's the best goon.
The way he plays off Gene Hackman, their back and forth is just hilarious. As well as Miss Tessmacher, Valerie Perrine. She plays a great character there that really has an interesting into the story, and the way she works into the story and the way she, her character plays out is great.
Right.
I mentioned Jimmy already. Of course,
Perry White.
You have Perry is great. Ma and Pa Kent are great in their limited screen time, but they're wonderful. Of course, the great Marlon Brando as Jor-El is fantastic, and it's very well written. It's a very well written film. Dialogue is great and memorable and quotable.
Yeah. It's one of those movies that stands the test of time.
It does.
We're talking about it even today.
We're still talking about it today because it not only kicked off the genre, it did it in a spectacular way.
Totally.
That with the special effects, but also with the story and the characters.
And it's still the golden standard for superhero movies today.
In my opinion, it's still the best. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I've got this great box set. I've got a review of this on the channel now if you want to check that out. It has the extended edition, which I highly recommend if you haven't seen the extended edition to check it out. It's definitely my favorite version of the original film. So yeah, that's our thoughts on Superman, the movie from 1978, 45th anniversary this year. Had to talk about it. And again, with all the craziness that's going on in the comic book world, the new DCU, James Gunn's taking over, the new Superman Legacy movie.
I'm pretty optimistic about.
I'm optimistic about it. They've got a great cast.
James Gunn and all of that he's done in the MCU, with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, even with the new Suicide Squad movie.
I agree.
All of that has really given me cause for excitement in the coming future.
Yeah, the Guardians movies are my favorite MCU movies. They're fantastic. So those
clever.
Remain a standard for the genre as well. And like I said, Superman's legacy continued with Man of Steel, and I'm a massive fan of Zack Snyder and what he did with the character there. Very different take, much more grounded, realistic, kind of gritty take on the character, but I thought it really still held to the spirit of the character and what made him Superman. So very excited about the future. A little bit worried because of where we are now, but I think they're going to start making steps in the right direction over at DC and at Marvel.
Right.
I think some recent films have certainly gotten me excited.
Yeah.
And so we'll have to wait and see what happens in the future. Let us know in the comments below your favorite superhero movies. What do you think of this original Superman movie? If you've seen it, Which ones are you looking forward to most? Let us know. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. We've got all kinds of great, exciting stuff coming up at the channel soon.
Look forward to our new superhero review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom coming soon.
That's right, coming next week to theaters. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have reactions for you and reviews. So come back to the channel soon. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram down at the description. Those links are there. And we'll see you next time right here on The Real World.